Good afternoon, everyone. We're very glad that you could join us. So today we're hosting an introduction webinar to give you a first look at our new features. So soon your reader's experience will change dramatically, and that's because we're bringing brand new targeting capabilities to your account. These will make it easier for you to figure out exactly what your recipients want to receive from you and use that information to build your segments and personalize your emails. So we're going to show you a bunch of examples and tips today on how to make the most out of these new interests. I am Michelle. I am a business and product lead at Flexmail, which means that I'm mainly involved in the marketing and product development here at Flexmail. And my colleague Brenda is also here today. She, together with her other support colleagues, are available every day to answer all your questions. So I strongly advise you to put aside all things that can distract you, your phone, other tabs, your inbox. Those won't run away. The more focused you are on this webinar, the more practical tips you are going to be able to get out of it. This webinar will take about 45 minutes. Let me quickly switch to the sides instead of dual screen so you get more advantage of the screenshots and the images on the presentation. So what will we cover today? Why are we releasing these new features, which will be your new profile page, the unsubscribe page, and new interests. Some detailed examples in various sectors to give you some idea of how you can use these new features for your case, when to use contact fields or interests and how you can segment on them, the difference between public and private interests, then the 7 ways in which contacts can end up in those interests, how those interests compare to your GDPR strategy, and you can use custom branding to brand all new public pages. So we'll dig into that as well. And lastly, when does your account get access to the new features? If you have any questions during this webinar, I strongly advise you to use the chat. So we'll make sure to cover all your questions today. Thank you. And let's continue. So let's start at the beginning. According to us, successful email communication responds to your contact's needs and interests. And who knows best what those needs and interests are? Your recipient, of course. So how do we gain insight into what people want to read? Firstly, your recipient's customer behavior is no mystery. And every time your contact makes individual actions and choices. And the strength of your emails depends on what you do with those choices. So you need to make your contacts your first priority. Do not send them what you want to tell them, but what your target group actually needs to take action. Put your recipients in control. And you can do that through interaction, personalization, and programming. You need to investigate how your readers interact with your contact. What do they click on? What can you do with that information? You can send specific content on the basis of that information and make sure your marketing automation is influenced by those specific choices. So what is the value of your open rate? For you, what is decisive for the success of your campaign? Does your email need to be beautiful, or do you have a specific goal? And those goals could be informing them, getting them to download something, to make a purchase, to use your products in a better way, or maybe to get to know you better for a welcome email. And the emails that invariably show high open rates, and we even saw some up to 90%, are those sent to a specific audience, including emails in automation scenarios throughout your segments. So if an email specifically responds to my needs or my interests, or if it comes expectedly like a confirmation or a registration email, the chances of me opening that email are much higher, which makes a lot of sense, of course. So if you are going to segment, know that the cost of segmented emails is also higher. You have to provide specific content for each audience, which will take you more time. It means more work. So if your segmentation is so specific that you're only going to reach a few people, you need to ask yourself whether the possible yield or impact of your campaign still outweighs the cost. So the key takeaway here is to focus on the audiences that really matter to you and of which you know you can achieve good results, not only in terms of the number of opens, but also by measuring the goal of your campaign with those results. Also remember that people visit your unsubscribe page for a reason. Not everybody wants to stop getting something or stop getting emails altogether. They visit your unsubscribe page because they have a frustration or a need. They want fewer or different emails. So if unsubscribing is the only way in which they can satisfy that need, they will opt for that choice. So show them why they receive certain emails and make them indicate what is interesting to them. So that's really what we want to accomplish with these new features.
So how can you find out those interests of your contacts through Flexmail? Now we get to the good stuff. Your new profile page, which with a focus on each contact's interests. If contacts want to unsubscribe, they will soon be led to your new profile page. Here we show the interests that can be chosen in your communication and for which of these they are registered. In this way, your contacts always have a central place for their information and know exactly why they receive certain information. Additionally, contacts will benefit from extra security. If they unsubscribe from a specific subject, this information will also be kept up to date behind the scenes. You will no longer be able to allocate them to the same interest unless your contacts do this actively themselves. Interests they have never been subscribed to can still be allocated to them, of course. Another major change we are going to implement is that contacts will no longer be unsubscribed immediately once they have clicked the unsubscribe link in the footer. We have recently noticed a development in the markets that some spam filters, and especially at a company level, they test all links before passing the email on to the recipient. If the recipient clicks the unsubscribe link, the contacts will be unsubscribed immediately without a real person performing the actual action. This explains why we will ask our recipients for confirmation again before the unsubscription is registered. This means they first come to the profile and then they have to click on the top of the profile page to unsubscribe. Of course, this is also where they can unsubscribe from specific segments. We have opted for keeping the profile very clean and showing the interests exclusively. We only show what is important to your contacts, why they receive emails and how they can influence this. After they have unsubscribed, they can still add a reason for doing so. All interests you create will end up in your profile. During the creation process, you can add a label and a description for more context. If multiple contact languages have been set for your account, you can also translate this label and this description. With a few examples, we want to give you some ideas on how you could use your interests to make your communication more relevant. In a sports shop, for example, you have a wide range of products. A customer is looking for specific products and is therefore not a potential customer for your entire range. So in your shop, you have to find out what people are interested in and present them your offer based on that information. You need to do the same in your emails. You can use personalization to make sure your emails are interesting for your target audience. In this case, you could adjust your interest to the types of emails you are going to send, such as promotions and discounts, the monthly newsletter, event mailings, and surveys. In a B2C environment, you are confronted with lower open ratios. You have an online offer, and only loyal fans regularly come to see if you have new products. You therefore need to use online marketing to get people to your website. The consequences are clear. The more emails you send, the more people will visit your website, especially if those mails are good. More emails therefore leads to more visits and more purchases, but also potentially more people who want to unsubscribe. If you only give those people the option to unsubscribe completely, they will choose to do so. But you can also use interest to let people choose their own frequency. In this example, you can make people choose the frequency themselves. This way you do not need to worry about mailing more. Your readers choose how many emails they want to receive. So let's take a look at an example of a bank or insurance company. You are active in a competitive market, but your customers are loyal. By tailoring your content to specific target groups with specific needs, you can create much added value by means of your communication, such as separate newsletters for freelancers, families, small and medium-sized businesses, and shares. In cities, for example, specific teams are often responsible for specific information. This is of no concern to the citizens. They only want to be informed well and find information about any difficulty. They are not interested in internal silos. Ask yourself the question of who is taking care of what and which division you want to make for your recipients, such as library, swimming pool, information for associations, events, etc. If software is your line of business, you can work with content categories. Think of what the customer would like to get from its provider: product information, tips and strategies, business news, or discounts.
Of course, you also have other information concerning your contact. So the best thing to do is to combine the new interests with data that you already have. So when will you use interests for your information, and when will you use contact fields? What is the best way to combine them and set up this data? To select the right target groups, you have to make sure you obtain their permission and make your selections on the basis of the right information. So if you do that, your open rates for segmented emails will soar because they have become more relevant. Your content will get across to the target group much better, and you can create fully separate target groups and therefore targeted emails as well, or you can personalize only specific parts of your email. So let's take a look at the previous examples as a basis. For example, the sports shop. Which data are you already asking for, and which data do you already have in your database, or maybe because people click on specific links. So in this example, we assume that customers can choose the types of newsletters they want to receive. These emails will be even more effective if you combine them with the data that you already have, such as, for example, gender, favorite brands, or favorite sports. It's no use sending cyclist items to people that enjoy hiking, for example. So if you did not collect this data at registration, you need to analyze their clicking behavior in your emails and extend your profiles on the basis of that information. You can do that by using workflows for these actions, for example. So do you know that people have bought kids items in the past, and are they subscribed to promos? Then you can select the perfect audience for a back-to-school promo, for example. So when you send promos, your frequency will increase, but you will be sending relevant information to people where you know that the potential that they buy something is higher. The same applies to our online jeweler. You can work on the basis of product categories for your contact fields, style or type that they recently purchased, location for local promotions or holidays, their language. So a possible segment could be promo, English, for example. For a software company, we could personalize further on the basis of language or subscription type or the features that they're using. If they've registered for a beta version, the creation date of their account, for example. So this allows me to send more specific update emails when this is more relevant to a specific product type. Or send promotions to a specific target group, or send welcome emails to new users if they have subscribed to tips. So the information on the left side of the screen would be contact fields, and you can combine them with interests for better segments. So by combining the two, you can create segments and consequently the target groups that you will be emailing. So the structure of your segmentation could look like this on the left side. And remember that the clearer the naming is structured, the easier it will be for you in several years to still understand the structure that you once created.
As from a Pro subscription, an extra option is added so that you can create internal interest too. These will not append in the profile automatically. Public interests are automatically available for all subscription types. So as soon as you create a public interest in your account, it immediately becomes visible on your contact's profile, and he or she can subscribe to it. To make your public interest more sellable to people who visit your profile, you can add a label and a description. The label is the interest name that is shown to your contacts, so you can use it to say more about the topic of interest and what kind of contents to expect or how often you will email about that topic. If you email in different languages, then you can translate the label and the description into those contact languages, so you only have to create an interest once. If you have a pro or premium subscription, you also get the option to create private interests. Unlike public interests, private interests are not visible on the profile, so contacts cannot register for it. Private interests can be seen as a kind of tags. You have to see it as an option to temporarily store certain information for a specific campaign. Think of specific workflow follow-up or participants of a fair or an event, for example. Possible examples of private interest could be a webinar, use promo, loyal reader, town council reports, or anything that can help you in following up your contacts. There are, however, a few things to take into account. All public interests that you create in the accounts are always shown on the profile. Strong descriptions can be used to sell an interest, so make sure to describe clearly what the contacts can expect when subscribing. Update your translation if you send your emails in multiple languages. This way the contact will see the label and description in their own language. If you offer more than 5 interests, your contact must click on the button Show All to see the full list of interests. People already using the outdated interest labels or preferences may recognize some of the principles. The introduction of interests provides many new possibilities and a better experience. The existing interest labels or preferences will be fully absorbed by the new interests. Interest labels will become private interests and preferences will become public interests. If you send emails in multiple languages, you will need to merge the interests first and then translate them. So how do contacts end up in the interests? This could be at their own initiative or through an action by you. So if you already have this information, you can add it to your import file. You add an extra column to your file, for example, interests, and you place the names of your interests in that column, separated by a comma. If a contact unsubscribes, we will skip that interest, but all other data will be processed. If the interest does not exist in Flexmail, an error message will be displayed for the respective email address. So in this case, no data will be processed. All errors are included in your error file for you to correct and retry. If you don't have any interest in your import file, then with every import, we will ask you if you want to assign a common interest to all the contacts in that import. You can choose one from the drop-down or create a new one immediately. This interest is then assigned to all contacts in that import. If a contact already exists in the Flexmail database and was already subscribed to a specific interest, that information is of course retained. Has a specific contact already unsubscribed for that interest, then we skip that contact. You can bulk add up to 5 interests per import to prevent abuse. In your import file, there is no limit. The interests can be added individually in the contact detail as well. Like contact fields, they can be modified manually per contact. Unsubscriptions will be respected. This means that a contact who has actively unsubscribed can never simply resubscribe for that same interest. However, the contact can always do this himself in the profile. For new contacts who register on your websites, you also have the option of automatically signing them up for specific interests. Here it is best to take into account the context of the page on which your opt-in form is placed. Imagine you put an opt-in form on your blog. Then it might make sense to immediately subscribe them to your newsletter and a separate tip mail. You can indicate this in the settings of your opt-in form. What happens exactly is your contacts fill in the form, then they receive an opt-in mail to confirm the subscription. And after clicking on the confirmation button, your contact arrives at the new profile page. Here we'll tick the interests, in this case tips and newsletters, that you have chosen as default interests. You can still subscribe to other interests or unsubscribe from one of your default interests. As you can see, in such situations, a good description can be a real added value. If an existing contact in your database fills in an opt-in form again, we complete his details with the selected default interest of that form, besides the interest he already has at that moment. In that case, he will see all the interests ticked for which he has subscribed. The contact can also make his own choices on the profile page. He can still adjust these default interests or subscribe to other interests. This can be done after confirming the opt-in or by clicking in the footer. Interests are an ideal way to capture click behavior from your readers for future personalization. For example, if you have a wine business and your contacts click on a link to a blog article about Italian wines, then it is interesting to record such an interest or purchase intention in Flexmail. You can then use this to send promotions on special Italian wines. Keep in mind that we consider clicking a link to be a contact action. This means that an unsubscribed contact will be resubscribed to that interest. So be thoughtful about this. Your contents must effectively match that interest. And to conclude, you will soon be able to use interests in your marketing automation in Flexmail. For example, you could add a contact to an interest when he has completed a specific scenario or after clicking on a specific link. You can also use a subscription to an interest as a starting parameter of your workflow. For example, you could approach new subscribers to a specific interest with a custom welcome flow.
If you decide to use interests, do you have to specifically consider the GDPR if you want to use them? So let's dig a bit deeper into this. By using Flexmail, you're already very far in implementing the GDPR for your email communication. You can use a European platform with the necessary ISO and security requirements. So just like when you wouldn't use interests, you still use a double opt-in policy so that you obtain a valid consent. Interests are only going to help this. You have an extra level of tracking of unsubscribing and of exactly what info a contact receives. Flexmail ensures that contacts who actively unsubscribe from an interest can no longer be added to that interest by you. A contact can only do that himself. So what do you need to consider? If your interest registration is coming from another platform and you're importing this information into Flexmail, it is best to carry through eventual unsubscribes for a specific interest in Flexmail into your other software. With each import, we also give you in the import error report which contacts are unsubscribed for an interest you just tried to add. So make sure to keep that information consistent in any other platform that you're using. Furthermore, it's important that you make good use of the chosen interests of your contacts when building your segments. So if you're sending an email to people that are subscribed to promos, make sure that is actually a promo that you're sending. So make sure that you tailor the content of your email to the right target audience. If you will be using private interests, do remember that contacts cannot unsubscribe for those private interests, and that means that you need to pay extra attention to handle the information you receive from your contacts in a responsible way.
Of course, you want people to immediately recognize those pages as your company when they visit their profiles. So that is why we will be improving the custom branding settings as well. You can set your logo, a background image, and primary colors for your new opt-in mail, profile page, unsubscribe page, and error page. Translations are also applied automatically. So let us return to our previous examples. In this case of our sports shop, this could look like this with the new custom branding. So take a look at the example of an online retailer, like a jewelry shop. With the right images and your house style, you can create an entirely different look and feel. And here is an example of our bank or insurance company, or for our city. And a software company. As you can see in the examples, there will be a lot of options to fully customize the pages to your own house style.
For those specific images, especially the background image, it's really important that you use high quality images. So we will be releasing a specific page in the manual where you will find all recommendations specifically for the sizing and the DPI and stuff like that for those images. So when can you expect those new features? We will be releasing them in batches for everyone who is already using a single database. So we will start by launching to all new trial accounts, and soon after that, all accounts that have never used the old interest labels or preferences will follow. Next, we will start with the accounts that are currently using interest labels, and finally, we will merge the accounts that are also using preferences. This means that you can also prepare by already thinking about data setup. What type of interest will you create, and how do you maybe need to merge them if you're currently already using preferences? So once those accounts are completed, you can merge your existing preferences per language into one new interest and enter your translations. This will make your segmentation in the future a lot easier, and you will not need to do anything twice. So prepare well. Think about how you want to personalize your profile page and which interests you want to show in the profile. So if you do not use any interests, you need to remember that your contact can only unsubscribe from everything on his profile. So it is better for your unsubscribe rates to offer interests that will make your emails a lot more relevant. If you're using the API, we do want to give some more information about that topic as well. So as soon as the new interests are released, you can also use the API to automatically add contact details that you're storing in other programs to Flexmail. So if you're not using interest tags and interest labels and preferences yet, then you do not need to do anything in terms of changes to your current API setup. However, if you are currently using the API to convert the outdated interest labels and preferences to Flexmail, then the corresponding API calls will no longer be usable. You will have to convert your current connection into the use of interests. Those changes are not complex, but they should be used in a well-considered way. So be sure to let us know via support if you want to make a connection with the interests via the API, and we are happy to look into the best possible approach together with you. If you want to make a new connection, it is in any case interesting to create a new trial account after the release. That way you can already play with your new implementation before actually connecting it to your real account. So in any case, it is never our intention to break any old connections, and we will give you enough time to get everything right.
So our introductory webinar is almost over. We'd love to hear your first impressions of the new features. Do you have any questions? You can ask them via the chat. Or if you have any questions at a later stage, please do not hesitate to contact us via support@flexmail.be, and we will be happy to help you.
We do have a private question. Can registration pages still be embedded in our existing website using an iframe? Yes, you can definitely do that. So you will need to create a new opt-in form to make sure that you are linking the new interests to that form, and then you can still use an iframe to collect those subscribers on your website. That will not change. The thing that will change, however, is when they receive an opt-in email and they click on the confirmation link, they will visit the new profile page, of course. Another question, can we group interests into blocks on the profile page to make a distinction between newsletter subscription product ranges that customers might be interested in, market segments that they are active in, 3 levels of email frequency? No, all interests that you create will be visible on the profile, all public interests. If you want to combine that with other data, you would need to combine that with custom fields, for example, or with private interests. If you really want to make a distinction between a type of newsletter descriptions and the chosen level of frequency, that could lead to choice paralysis for your contact. So we do advise to offer a maximum of 10 choices on the profile. Otherwise, they won't be able to make a distinction just because they don't know the ins and outs of your business as you know that. So it would be better to offer a limited option of choices and really explain well how many emails they can expect to receive within those interests. Any other questions? Not really. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions later on, make sure to send them to us through support@flexmail.be. We will be releasing a lot of manual articles once those features are released, and you can also expect a lot of blog articles with specific information, examples, how you can make a starting point with those interests if you're already currently using Flexmail, and so on. So thanks again for joining us, and we wish you a very pleasant afternoon. Bye.